You're not stuck because you're doing nothing. You're stuck because everything you're doing feels like it should be working, but isn't. And that's what makes it confusing. You think about your situation, you reflect, you analyze, you try to understand what needs to change. You make small adjustments. You try to move forward. You try to get some kind of momentum going. But no matter what you do, it feels like you're in the same place. Not completely frozen, but not moving either. And over time, that creates a strange kind of frustration. Because from the outside, it looks like effort. But from the inside, it feels like nothing is changing. You start questioning yourself. Am I doing something wrong? Am I missing something obvious? Why does it feel like I'm trying, but not getting anywhere? The natural response is to try harder, to think more, to plan more, to figure it out more precisely. You assume that if you can just understand the situation better, you'll unlock whatever is holding you back. But the more you think, the more complicated it becomes. You start seeing more angles, more possibilities, more variables. What once felt like a simple problem now feels layered, unclear, difficult to navigate. And instead of moving forward, you slow down. Because now every step feels like it needs to be the right step. So you hesitate. You stay in preparation mode. You keep refining, adjusting, reconsidering. You tell yourself you're getting ready, that you're making sure things are aligned before you act. But preparation never feels complete. There's always something else to think about, something else to consider, something else that could go wrong. And as long as that feeling is there, it's hard to fully commit to any direction. So you stay where you are. Not because you want to, but because moving forward doesn't feel certain enough. This is where most people misunderstand what being stuck actually is. You assume it means you're not doing enough. But often, it means you're doing too much in the wrong direction. You're investing energy into thinking, analyzing, and preparing, instead of acting. And thinking gives you the feeling of movement. It feels like you're working on the problem. It feels like you're getting closer. It feels responsible, controlled, intentional. But thinking doesn't create change. Only movement does. And when your energy is going into thinking instead of moving, you stay in the same place, no matter how active your mind feels. That's why you can feel exhausted and still stuck at the same time. Because you've been active mentally, but inactive in reality. Over time, this creates a loop. You feel stuck, so you try to figure it out. The figuring out leads to more complexity. The complexity creates hesitation. The hesitation keeps you in place. So you try to figure it out again. And each time you go through that loop, it reinforces itself. Because your brain starts to associate progress with thinking, not with action. So the next time you feel stuck, it doesn't push you forward. It pulls you inward. Back into analysis. Back into planning. Back into trying to get it right before you move. But there's another layer to this. Sometimes being stuck isn't just about uncertainty. It's about protection. Your brain isn't only trying to help you move forward. It's trying to keep you from making a mistake. And if a decision feels like it could lead to the wrong outcome, your mind slows everything down. It creates doubt. It introduces hesitation. It expands the number of things you need to consider. Not because you can't move, but because part of you doesn't want to risk it. So instead of stopping you completely, your brain keeps you in a state that looks like progress, but doesn't actually lead anywhere. Thinking, planning, preparing, all of it feels productive, but none of it forces a result. And that's the key. As long as you stay in that space, you don't have to face the outcome. You don't have to deal with whether it works or not. You don't have to experience the uncertainty of action. So you stay in the safest version of trying, where everything is still theoretical, where nothing has been tested yet, where nothing has failed, but also nothing has moved. This is why being stuck feels so heavy, because you're caught between intention and action. You want change, but you don't fully step into it. And the longer you stay there, the more pressure builds. Because deep down, you know movement is required. You can feel it. But your mind keeps pulling you back into thinking, into refining, into trying to make it clearer before you act. And clarity never feels complete enough. So you wait. And while you wait, nothing shifts. But here's the shift that breaks this pattern. You don't need full clarity to move forward. You only need enough to take the next step. And that step doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to solve everything. It doesn't even have to work the way you expect. It just has to move you out of the loop. Because once you act, something changes. You get feedback. You see what actually happens. You move from thinking about possibilities to experiencing reality. And reality simplifies things. It removes the endless variables your mind creates. It narrows the path. And that's what creates real progress. Not thinking more, not preparing more, not waiting until everything makes perfect sense, but moving, even when it doesn't. At first, this feels uncomfortable, because you're stepping out of the space where everything is controlled. You're entering a space where outcomes are uncertain, where things can go differently than you expect, where you don't have full visibility. But that's also where change happens. Because staying where you are, even if it feels safer, guarantees one thing. Nothing changes. So the next time you feel stuck, pay attention to what you're actually doing. Are you moving forward? Or are you thinking about moving forward? Because those are not the same thing. One creates progress, the other creates the illusion of it. And once you see that clearly, the pattern starts to break. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop waiting for full clarity. You stop trying to solve everything before you begin. And instead, you do something simple. You move, even slightly, even imperfectly, even without knowing exactly where it leads. Because movement changes the state you're in. It shifts you out of analysis and into reality. And once that shift happens, you're no longer stuck. You're in motion, and that's all you ever needed to begin with.